This is our second Power Talk of the month. It's been really dope so far. It's getting doper. So Jessica Tingling, I like to make sure I pronounce people's names right because my name is Sabria Shipley. And it's a thing, y'all. But I'm gonna read the awesomeness that is Jessica. Right? Let me get started. Jessica Tingling is the founder and publisher of J&B Press LLC. J&B Press LLC is a Black-owned, female-owned publishing house based in the Philadelphia area of Pennsylvania. J&B Press LLC publishes works related to the arts and the experiences of marginalized communities. Jessica first established the publishing house in the beginning of 2019 after designing publications informally for a number of years. She has worked in and around art galleries, museums, and studios for several years and would witness firsthand the dampering of the creative vision. She wanted creators to have an advocate, one that would prioritize resources to grow, share, and preserve a creator's journey. Each contributor has an incredible story to be shared. Jessica is simply there to assist in the process. In addition to being a publisher, she is also a fellow creative. Woo woo. Jessica is a published author, librarian, archivist, come through, and photographer. Jessica, welcome to Power Talk. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I've really been looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, me too. Me too. I will say, it's been a long week, but we here. We made it to this beautiful conversation. One thing I want to ask before I even get started asking questions, anything that you want to talk about off rip, right? And to talk about and to, get out into the world, to this Power Talk.
No, to be honest, I watched the first one and I was just blown away. I love the questions that you asked and how the conversation just evolved. I'm really excited just to dive right in.
Yes, I love a good conversation. I'm an Aquarius, y'all, so I love a good conversation, y'all already know. So let's start off with, when did your artistic passion start? Like, what woke you up? What made you like, I'm going to be out here creating?
I was really inspired by an artist friend of mine. I am into Star. And in 2018, she decided that she was going to quit her job and be an artist full time. And she had no background in it, no training. Like, she hadn't taken a class on anything. And since that time, she has produced such a powerful array of work. I mean, it has just been blowing my mind. She went from figurative painting to landscape to multimedia to photography, and her large-scale murals are just inspiring. They really are. And so seeing her make that leap really pushed me to say, well, what more can I do? And she really encouraged that, which was also great to have that support. Sometimes we have these like idols and they don't want anything to do with us. I mean, they're really working on their own plans. So it was wonderful to have that support and that collaboration. She wanted to see me succeed just as much.
Period, right? Because it should not be, if we have, like, what did Toni Morrison say? The job is to go back and empower someone else. Like, that's not like, I think that's something that, like you said, sometimes it lacks in mentorship and people who, people you look up to, you like, hey, can you guide me? I really appreciate that perspective. And in addition to what you said about that full-time, like, jumping into it, I think that is something that I'm excited to talk more about as we go on this conversation, because I'm also at this like grip of like wanting to produce my own things. I've been doing that, but also like that jump of, what is full-time artistry like in 2022? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that look like? So that's really exciting to be inspired by someone who's like, hey, you guys to just go for it. And it looks like you did, Jessica. Like, I'm really excited to hear about, if you could talk more about the publishing, like finding this publishing, like what crossed your mind 2019, like, yo, we got to get this jumping.
Yes, absolutely. After working with different artists, including Into Star Hamilton, and both in the Philadelphia area, but also in the surrounding area, I came across similar experiences where they would go to a museum or gallery and they would say, this is my vision. And they would say, that's wonderful. We're not doing any of that. We're going to do this instead. You're welcome. And it was so frustrating because the artists would have these fantastic ideas. They knew their work the best. And they're saying, this is how the work should be portrayed. And they were completely ignored. And it was really, really frustrating. And so I wanted to be an advocate for them. I wanted to be a mediator, a helper, however I could. And part of that is just documenting our record and saying, this is what I've created. This is where I've shown. This is what I've contributed over the years. Too often we create something and we send it out for that show, or we send it off for that presentation and we don't photograph it, we don't document it. We just keep it pushing because we're on to the next thing. And I've worked with artists where they had pieces show up on an auction block years later and now they're trying to prove that's mine. There's no photograph, there's no documentation anywhere. And that's how I really got into producing these art catalogs. And from there, folks came to me and they said, you know, I have this art catalog, but I also have this cool narrative. I want to transform this into a book. And we're in an impressive day and age where our community can not only document our experiences and our perspectives ourselves, but we can also distribute it and preserve it long term. We have the avenues to do that. And so I just really push anybody that has an idea for a book, do it. Because there's other people out there that are publishing. They're putting their books out there. And we're sitting there, we're saying, I hate what they're doing. That's not us. I don't like how they're portraying that. But you're not putting out your own story. And it was so frustrating. So I really got into publishing just to act as a mediator in that regard as well, just to push people. You know what, you have this book, you've been sitting on this idea for years, let's do it. Let's talk to an illustrator, let's talk to a graphic designer about your cover. Let's start to move this along so that we can actually start to share it. And from there, I mean, it's really grown over the years. I laugh because when I first started this, I named it after my daughter. Her nickname is JB. People always ask, you know, who's the B if you're J? And I say, well, I'm actually not either. But I named it after her because in my mind, this is hers one day to do with as she pleases. I'm really just safeguarding it for her. But I also want to make her proud with it. I want this to be a community that she feels safe with, that she wants to support, that she can really get behind. And it's great because it's funny, she grows up with these clients, she really does. She's going over to their house, or she's popping into all the Zoom calls, already taking over the meetings. But it's just been very inspiring to hear the different stories that people have. And I read their books and I'm just like, you didn't publish this already? Like, this isn't on a bestsellers list somewhere? Because they're just fantastic. They're so well-rounded and they're what we've been crying for. And I'm just so thankful to have it handed, and I really am.
Jessica, that is one, that's amazing. The legacy that you spoke of is so potent and so necessary and needed, right? That legacy that you pass on to your daughter, but also to a community, right? That keeps going. I think that speaks to what artistry is and the importance of archiving, like what we are doing, right? We learned that from like Summer of Soul that came out last summer, and it's like, you telling me we went all these years without seeing this phenomenal festival? Like, what do you mean? And I relate so much to, because I recently just self-published my first book, my first poetry book. And that was like an experience that I was so grateful that I had to push for it. And because I was so excited to learn what that looked like. Like, what do I need to do? How to do a copyright? How to do ISBN? All these different things. And while I had the comfortability to do that for myself, I was talking to one of my friends. I was like, I wish that like I know about some of these presses sooner in our community, because it would make it so much easier for those of my friends who are like, I want to put my poetry out there. I want to put that out there, but I don't know, or Sabrina, I don't have the brain power that you have to like do all that, right? And I wanted to be like, yeah, we need to have a space where we can do that. And you are that space. That's amazing to like have that space and to know that that's available. I'm gonna hit you up for the next book. Give me 5 years. I got you. You know, but I think that's like amazing that you've created this community, really community-based organization, right? In a way that is putting our words out, because we do know that a lot of Black and Brown authors go unpublished professionally because they're submitting to sit at the table. Do you know what I'm saying? And the table, and we're like, when are you gonna stop trying to sit at this table? For real, for real. Like, when are you gonna build the table yourself? Like, what's the issue? Like, you know? And I think that really was something that I really aspire to continue to do. And my artistry, I've always been like, I'm gonna put the play on, period. And if people show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. Or I'm gonna publish the book. And people are like, can I pre-order? I was like, no, that's not happening. I don't know what you want for that. But you know, it's not about the sales for me. It's about the journey. It's about getting the words out there. But a lot of it is like having that mentorship, that fellowship, period. And I really appreciate like all that work you're doing to create that community filled, right? Yes. This is, listen, just, you know, woke me up. Listen, I just got off of work, y'all. I was with 20 kids downstairs. Just like right after school programs. But yeah, I'm like really feel empowered by that answer. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you. Yeah. All right. How does your identity influence your work? I think you already touched on this, like the importance of that. But like, how does your identity, like your own personal journey, come into play when you're doing this publishing work, this, you know, all these hands and balancing? How does that come into play?
Oh my gosh. It factors in every day. Absolutely. You know, I am a Black woman. I'm also a member of the LGBTQ community. And that definitely factors into the books that I publish and the authors I want to work with. I feel like there have been too many times where we've had amazing stories, and like you said, it's just been kind of pushed to the side and said, oh, well, nobody's really interested in that, or that's too controversial, we can't talk about that. But there's an audience for it, and that audience is looking for those books. So I really just want to help support that. And you touched on it as well, the importance of copywriting our work. You know, if we can't share it through, you know, one of the big publishing houses too often, we'll start to share it on social media. And then somebody will take it and they'll use it. And it's like, well, before we share it, let's just copyright it so we can get the credit that we deserve. But definitely every day, I mean, on my platforms and my conversations, not only as a publisher, but also as a librarian. I work at the Baldwin School, and I'm their upper school librarian. Yes. So expanding their collection as well, and being very vocal in that, not shying away from tough conversations and emphasizing, you know, we need to do more, and this is how we can do it. And this is just a starting point, and I'm not the only one that should be contributing my voice. There should be others here as well.
Come on.
How can we make that happen? So definitely. And then in terms of archiving, absolutely. I'm so proud. There's more and more archives coming out that represent us. Oh,
yes.
And in seeing that, I mean, I want to have a hand in it however I can. I'm also on the executive board of the Black Caucus of American Library Association. And I serve on their history committee. And right now we are building a timeline that's going to be going on the website, going back like a couple hundred years of all these Black librarians. And here I am, I'm in the field, and I didn't even know how extensive this history was. Too often you look around and you don't see us in these spaces, and you say, oh, well, I guess we weren't really there. And that's the lie. We're very much there. We're very much part of that history. And so it's wonderful being able to add back in those missing pieces, the parts that were left out or discarded, and really bring that to the forefront and make it easy for people to find it.
Yeah. Two things that you talked about really like that really hit me was the notion, because I am a program director, literacy program director for a Giving Library. And my focus is on decolonizing literacy for Black youth. And that notion of like being the only one speaking up in the space, like this is not okay. Be like, and you know, and you're not doing your work. You're not doing the work or the history behind it. And I love archives, right? I used to be at the Temple at the Bloxon, Charles Bloxon, like, is it would be like, so I'm checking out this today. Where my gloves at? What's happening, right? And then also working with youth and archiving allows a message to be sent to them, like, hey, you actually, if you know your history, you have kind of more promise to want to continue the future and build that legacy. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of times our kids don't know sometimes, like, know all of that. We don't even know, like you said. And then when we do tell them, like, this is what happened, they're like, oh, so I can do that? But only with more technology and more and it's like so amazing to see that growth. So I applaud you for, you know, doing the work. That's like, well, doing the work, you know, it's become a cliche around these parts, but like actually doing what is necessary to make sure that our youth, next generation, knows, you know, about their past, but also know where they're going. That's really important. Yeah. These questions, they get deeper, I tell you. Tell us about an obstacle that you had to overcome in the process of overcoming, right? Like, what have you learned from being at the centerfold of like putting so many words from our people out there?
So some of the obstacles in terms of publishing are definitely just the day-to-day.
Talk about it.
It was a dramatic shift when COVID hit for everyone. And like I said, you know, this business, it's a community. And so we were very much in communication, just hearing how each person was impacted by it. And then seeing how that impacted their publication as a result. They were so excited to put this book out, but then there may have been like a death in the family, or because they weren't able to go into work, they had to take care of their kids, having to find different housing then. And so all of these different day-to-day things coming up and then delaying their publication, and they're getting frustrated in that because they feel like they're not doing enough. And it's just trying to remind them that things happen when they're supposed to, as much as we don't want to hear that at times. Some things need longer than we want. And some things just aren't meant to happen, or they're not meant to happen right now. And that's a very hard lesson for me. That's one I'm still learning. I've worked on projects that I was just so passionate about, so excited about, and just knew that the community would just fall over themselves to come out for it, and had to walk away from it. I worked on one project where it was a 3-part project where one person was going to photograph the model, one person was going to paint the model, and I was going to interview the model. And I was interviewing the model about their perceptions of beauty. Where did these come from? So they were talking about things that their parents said growing up, or things that they heard on the street. And they were openly sharing. And in doing so, they were shedding their clothes and they were bearing it all. And it was such a powerful conversation, and the photographs and the paintings were coming together, and our hope was to have like an exhibition where we would have people come and continue the conversation, speak with the artists, speak with the models, and add to what we're discussing. But in that project, there was only one male that was working on the project, and he was the one that was taking the photographs. And because details weren't worked out early on, what he ultimately expressed is that he owned the photographs. They were his. And with legalese, you're right. Yes, they were taken on your camera. But from my perspective and from the painter's perspective, they belong to the models. These were their stories. And so how could you say, this is mine? And it was something that just, it didn't sit well with our spirits. It really didn't. And ultimately, we walked away from the project. And it hurt so much to do that. Knowing the conversations that were to come and the healing that was going to happen because of those conversations. But at the same time, knowing that there was something wrong with the foundation and we couldn't move forward with it. Now, that's not to say we won't come back to it another time in another way. I definitely see that happening, but then also knowing that it wasn't the right time. And it's still one that's very, very sore. It still hurts. But that's what I tell my clients as well. And I use clients very loosely because, I mean, some of them publish under me and some self-publish, and I just support their self-publishing efforts. So whether that's helping them with the editing or the layout design or formatting and things of that sort. But just expressing to them, especially right now during COVID, things happen when they're supposed to. And we're just going to kind of ride with the wave, and we're going to adjust and adapt to whatever comes. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that we have to do that. For people that have recently put out their books, they had all these plans for like large-scale in-person events, and that's just not happening right now. It's just not an option. But the flip side of that is that we're having more virtual events. And that means that people across the country, wherever they are, across time zones, they can tune in. They don't have to fly in for the event. But then also we're finally tapping into a whole group of people that maybe they physically couldn't come to the show. It might be something where it was up a whole lot of stairs and they can't do stairs. Or it might be something where they're confined to their home and they just don't leave their home, and now they can participate because we're doing more virtual events. We're prioritizing that, and so that's what I share with my clients. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It may not be what we want to hear right now, but it could actually be a really good thing and help us in the long term.
Yeah, like, thank you so much for sharing that story and sharing, you know, the obstacles you had to face. I talked last week with Donnell about that. When you have to walk away from projects, how that leaves such a sore in your artistry in a way that you'd be like, can I do another project? What is this? I don't know. I've had similar experiences where I've worked and it has not gone well. And having to be able to be like, that didn't go well, but that doesn't mean that everything else won't. That doesn't mean everything won't, follow through, And I think also the notion of, I think a lot of times we look in art right now for instant gratification rather than doing art to do art, to create, right? I said to myself, I said, I'm not ready. I'm not putting out my first book, So Much Been Gone Mammy, until I know that I am doing it for myself and without any of that validation from outside sources. And that changed the whole journey for me. And I have to be reminded, I have to tell my best friends, like, remind me when I'm sitting here stressing over some typos, some shit, you gotta be like, listen, fuck it. Right. All right, do you like it? Are you fine with it? Are you good with it? And I think we need that reminder from community to say, just create. I know T.S. Hawkins, who's a Philadelphia playwright, educator. T.S. does a lot. But T.S. said to me when I was like, T.S., I don't know. about this like virtual reading of the book. Just like the community will be there and the community won't be there. And I was like, ow, that hurt, because that means, I can't put it all on the community. And I think a lot of artists, a lot of writers and playwrights spend so much time being wrapped up in having to validate it. And it's like, what? What you mean? I think about Ntozake Shange. When I think about Ntozake Shange talking about when she created For Color Girls, it wasn't for Broadway. It was for, you know what I'm saying, a bar in New York where she was like, listen, I want you, we're going to read these poems out loud. Let's do it. That spirit of that. I think that tenacity is something that we have, but tenacity also takes not being at crumble when the reward doesn't come immediately. And that's something that's difficult. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that obstacle and that overcoming and the ways that you have helped other people overcome, because that's even better. Like the notion of like helping the community through your own struggle and through your own journey, right? Oh, child, this is getting deeper. Okay. When do you feel the most powerful? That's one of my favorite questions. When do you feel the most powerful?
When I think about the past, present, and future.
Come on, Jessica. You better drop a line. Go ahead.
When I think about my family, and I think about everything that they went through and everything that's led me here, I'm in awe of my family. I really am. On my mother's side, like a distant cousin is Absalom Jones, who worked with Richard Allen. And on my dad's side, there are members of the Gullah community. And one of my cousins is related to Robert Smalls. And so thinking about everything that they have accomplished, I'm really blown away. Because I said, well, they did all that. If they can do all that, then I can probably wash these dishes, or I can work on this book. And I say the present because, in like a week and a half, I turned 34, and I'm kind of just blown away that I'm a publisher and I have 2 masters, and I'm doing this archival work, and I'm able to work with all these authors at 34. Like, if you had asked me years ago, oh, do you see yourself being here at this point? I would have laughed at you. I would have said, how? I don't see that working out. That math doesn't make sense. But just trusting the process has been amazing. And the future, just planning for my daughter. She's so excited, and she sees how excited I am about books. And it's so cute watching her like mimic me. She gets on the computer and she has to take her memos in all the different colors. Or she sees me reading different chapter books, and she picks up the same books and tries to read them too. But she's 3. She's still learning her alphabet. So she has a little ways to go. But I love seeing the youth get excited about books and being curious about books and hearing their interpretation of different themes and motifs. I mean, it's just, it really is awe-inspiring. I appreciate the things that she says. I appreciate the things that my students say. I'm just blown away by their bravery and their courage to call things out, but then also just how thoughtful they are. And I'm just like, really? Like, I was not thinking about this in like 10th grade, like not even close. And I'm excited to see where they go. I really am. And however I can help in that process, and just I'm happy to do so. Sharing what wisdom I can. These are the experiences I have. You know, take what you will from this. But letting them know they need to blaze their own path as well. You take this information and ask questions and keep asking questions, and don't take any assumptions. And when somebody says, oh no, this is how it is, ask them why. And keep asking why until it makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, no, you gotta go back to the drawing board. No, I want more information.
Yeah, like you can't fool. I love, it's one of the things I love about my relationship with my kids at Treehouse is people come in there so surprised by how candid we are, but how free they are to talk to me. Just talk to me, you know? And I always say that the transparency and the vulnerability that you give to your students gives more rewards than the control that you think you have. And it's so important. Thinking about that today, we were making a music build-up, and I said, hey, y'all really singing at a low tempo. If y'all ancestors walked in here, y'all think they'd be proud? And they was like, yes. I was like, they can't even hear you. What you mean? And they all went, aye, Mr. Brie, aye. And, you know, giving, and then it turned to a whole, we used Ella Baker's, speech. What? I'm blanking. Sweet Honey in the Rock took Ella Baker's speech and turned it into a song, We Who Believe in Freedom Cannot Rest. And so I was teaching them that, and we were doing a musical build up to it. And they were like, all right, we got this. We can build up to it. Because of that notion of like the ancestors. I use the Maya Angelou quote, like, I come as one, but I stand as 1,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that notion for them that past, present, and future is always a cycle. One of my students wrote down, she said, blackness is a cycle, Mr. Beard. I said, huh? I said, that right there is hot. That's a hot topic. Let's discuss that next time. You know, what is blackness as that whole cycle? And I think you really talked about it, that it keeps coming, right? And it feels, that's how I feel. I feel dope to be Black, because I'd be like, damn, I got some history with me. You know what I'm saying? You got some dark history, you got some beautiful, rich history. You know what I'm saying? You got some funny history and things, but you also, it continues, right? Because of that like ancestral knowledge. And I think that's whenever I'm talking to one of my brown brothers and sisters, or I'm talking to my indigenous brothers and sisters, they're like, yeah, it feels the same. It's like something is, you just keep going because something is happening around you. So I really appreciate that past, present, and future, because it reminds us that every day is just another part of the cycle. And that's beautiful. Oh my God. Yes. Vibes. Yes. Listen, I'm going to go home and write about that. Be like, I'm not going to go home right now. I'm going to go home and go to sleep. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go home and go to sleep. Listen. I will say, when do I feel the most powerful? I think I feel the most powerful when I'm having conversations like this. I think for me, I used to live in a world where I feared the silence of things. And I think for a lot of artists, there's a fear of silence. When does the conversation stop ending? When will people stop caring what I think and how I think? And it's like, nobody would ever, it won't stop ever, as long as you don't stop, caring about it. As long as you show up and you're like, I'm ready to do this. I want to have this conversation. So that is something that makes me feel powerful, that I have yet to shut up, y'all, in all my 26 years of life. My mom the other day, she was like, yeah, you have yet to shut up. Like, you really just be going. And I said, it's because there is this like notion in me of that fear of silence. There was it's a backstory. There was a time where I went mute for like a good week. When I was a week or so, I was like, very much a kid who, like, when I got bullied, I was like, shut it all down. Peace, period. And my mother was the one who shook it out of me. She really believed, she was reading at that time, Introduction Gay's Sassafras, Indigo, and Cypress. And in it, Indigo writes a lot of like magical spells, y'all. And one of them was how to bring someone back into themselves. And it's like shaking that person and saying their name. And she did that to me. And I was like, okay, I get it, Leslie. I'm going to talk. I got you. And I think that's one of my biggest fears when my kids do. When they shut down, it's one of my biggest fears. I'm like, where are you going? And I want to be like, come here. Because we know if you come here, we're going to bring you back into this space, into yourself, right? And so it's very important, like, to hear the conversation. That's power. That's the power. Yeah.
I must say, you definitely have a natural talent for this. I have no doubts that you feel powerful here, because yes.
Y'all heard that power?
Your energy.
Cut my check for next month. I'm joking. No, don't cut my check next month. Gary's gonna be like, you already know I'm emailing you tonight. No. But yes, thank you so much. I really enjoy these conversations. It's not over yet though, y'all. In what ways do you hope to leave the world better than you found it?
My hope is to leave behind some really fucking dope books. Like, just like some really amazing stories, and to know, like, yes, these exist because I had a hand in it. Whether or not they are published under J&B Press, I want to walk into a local bookstore and I want to see your book on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, yo, I helped edit that, or I helped with the layout or something. Like, yeah, we did it. Right. And I want the community to feel like they can find one another. For us to feel like we can find the books, that they're not just out there, but like there are places where we can see them, whether that's online or in person. We can readily access these books, and I want them preserved for the future. I want our kids and our grandkids to be able to find these books. You know, it breaks my heart. One of my favorite artists is Richmond Barth, and I love his sculptures. And one of my favorite ones, he recreated La Pietà, which is this piece in the Vatican where Mary is holding Jesus after he's come down off the cross. And Barth recreated it with a mother holding her lynched son. And I think it's one of the most powerful pieces, and it doesn't exist anymore. It was destroyed years ago, and I want our history to be there. So again, however I can have a hand in this, but I want our words, I want our thoughts, our perspectives, our art to be there.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. It's the archivist in us. We're like the ethnographer in me. It's like I want to have you look back and see everything and be able to know. Because when you think about great writers like Audre Lorde was popular during her time, but after her death, years later, Audre is popping. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's because Audre wasn't fretting like, oh, okay, y'all don't like me now, but the future, someone's going to need to read a new spell of my name.
Yes.
Someone's going to, Bell Hooks, she knew someone was going to would need to read Home Place and know that they had a place within themselves, right? I just feel like that's something that we don't talk about enough, is please document yourself. It saddens me when I see friends who can't pull up old photos of their family, because I have tons and tons, And I just be, and it tells me, like, I can look and see, oh, I look like my great grandmother. You know what I'm saying? Or I remember finding the photo of my great grandparents in Virginia in the photo booth was like revolutionary for me. It was so revolutionary. Finding writings of my mom when she was a teenager was like, oh, that explains so much, right? But that right there, document yourself. And I'm the friend, y'all, that people be like, Sabria always gotta get a picture. Yes, the hell I do. Because I document, I give this advice, because our worlds are always overchanging. Our relationship with people are overchanging. And I love the fact that I can look back on old photos, y'all, and be like, I don't fuck with that person no more. But that time right there, we was living the best life. We were doing this. We were doing that. And I have people who, the whole thing of like, erase the whole profile of that ex, or erase that whole ex best friend. I'm like, no, I don't want to erase that. No. That's still in my Google photos. What you mean? Because that was essential to who I was at that moment. Right? Gabby's laughing at me. I'm being serious, Gabby. I'll be like, I don't fuck with that person, but that was a good time. I remember that night. You know, it's like something like that is something that I don't know how is not important enough, you know, to have that. I love a good archive. Jessica, we gotta do an archive date, okay? We gotta meet up and just look through archives and just take our professional pictures with no glare. If you know, you know. If you don't, you ain't one of those girls, okay? So, you know, but that's important. I really appreciate that notion of like the history. My next question. Jessica, I could talk to you forever, but we do have to go to bed. I keep saying that, y'all.
You gotta go home at some point.
Right, we do have to go home. But the question, I'm going to ask you the question I asked Darnell, which was like, if your life right now had to be a TV show, right? Yeah. What would it could be the genre, it could be the opening credits. You know, they don't do opening credits like they used to do back in the day. You know what I'm saying? But what would it be like? Would it be a 90s sitcom? Would it be a rom-com? You know what I'm saying? What would it be?
I have to laugh because my friends, we've had this conversation before about what it would be like if this was turned into a TV show or a movie. It would definitely be on like HBO or Stars.
Mm-hmm. Period. Specific networks. Listen.
Yes.
Premium.
It would be one of those hour-long shows where it leaves you with a cliffhanger at the end of each episode. Where it's just you watch it and you're like, this just keeps getting more ridiculous. Like, like there's just more stuff being added on. How can they balance this? How can this work out? How can they get out of this situation? That would very much be my show.
I would watch that show. I'd be like, premium.
Yeah,
I'm subscribing.
But in the art world.
Yes. In a museum. Yo. Jessica, in a museum?
Yeah.
I would love to watch a show where there's a whole staff of museum, because it'll be as quiet as we be making out to be. You know what I'm saying? Things be going down in the museum. It'd be like, why don't you go over to that section and clean that? Since you don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? The drama. You know? Be like, you dropped the artifact? How you drop the artifact, yo? Oh. I would love, I'm secretly pining, if Dre is still on here, we just talked about this today, about how Abbott Elementary is my show right now. I'd be cracking up. Like, literally cracking up. Because some of the things that happen at Abbott Elementary, I'd be like, it happens after school too. After school programs but it'd be 10 times what was happening in Abbott Elementary. For me, though, I'm still trying to film my own opening credits for my life, because I kind of vibe with, hold on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of vibe You know what I'm saying? Just having like a good song playing, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, or talking to a friend and things be like, it's like Sabrina Shipley that's right here. You know what I'm saying? I like that vibe. It's very 90s to me. You know what I'm saying? It's very 90s, you know, opening credits. You know, I'm cute. It's a drama. You know what I'm saying? I could cry. Look, I can't cry. That's the one thing as an actor I cannot do, y'all. I have to be emotionally ready to cry. It's also because I'm Aquarius, so my emotional thing is.
Oh, I'm an Aquarius too.
Stop!
When's your birthday?
January 29th.
Ooh, February 18th.
Cut it out. That's my sister's birthday. I was like, yeah, I knew I vibed with that. I was like, that. Mm-hmm. That's my sister's birthday. My middle sister's birthday. Yes. Let me tell you. Because Aquarius, you see, that's why we was vibing. Because the Aquarius was going on. It was like, okay, let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to say it for any Capricorns on this line right now. Go ahead and log off. AKA Jerry. I'm joking, Jerry. Don't do it. But I will say that I feel like, Jessica, thank you so much. Like, let me just give you your flowers for doing the work that should be out there for the voices that need to be heard. Like, that's something that a lot of us don't talk about. You know what I'm saying? About honestly wanting to make sure other people are heard in the room. I'm fighting for everyone in the room that needs to be heard. You also a February Aquarius, so you know February Aquarius, y'all really be wild. Y'all can be in a home meeting and be like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't like it. Meanwhile, January Aquarius will meet afterwards and be like, I'm not doing it. Be like, you know,
my shows on HBO or Stars.
Yes, it's like, what you mean? You know, quality, premium. If y'all ain't know Aquarius is what a premium, wear premium. Get you an Aquarius in your life. If you don't already have one, it's a problem. You know? But Jessica, anything else that you want to share or to talk about before we, you know, head out?
I just want to thank you so much. I really appreciate this space. This was a fantastic conversation, like better than expected. So just thank you. Like, thank you, Power Street, for letting us out. Like, this was awesome. I hope we get to do it again in the future. Like, let me know.
Yes. You hear that, Power Street? We say, I want Jessica in the future. And, you know, so yes, follow J&B Press LLC. If you are coming over from J&B Press LLC, follow Power Street Theater Co. You know, because these Power Talks will continue throughout February. If you want to hear more from me, you can follow me at Ubuntu. That's UBUNTU SAB, SAB, right? And hear all about it's a private account, but I'll add y'all maybe, you know what I'm saying? But like, please follow, if you're hearing these Power Talks, follow these artists, these people who are coming together to have these conversations with y'all, right? It's important. Come on, shock us. Hold on, I'm gonna put my thing in there. Hold on. I gotta be better at promoting myself. Gabby told me I gotta be better at like put my shit out there. That's what she said.
Yes.
And that's my personal account, y'all. Come on, follow. Okay. So thank you so much, Jessica. I really, really can't thank you enough. This really made my night. It really made my night. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know what to expect when you're going to a talk or a live. You know, you're like, I don't know if I'm virtual ready, but you know. But this has been such a beautiful conversation. I'm so excited for those who get to watch it afterwards, and for myself to watch it afterwards and be like, "Oh, that was dope. We really said that. We're dropping jewels," you know. So I really appreciate that. Please, let us at Power Street. We can connect too. Like, I would love to like do more and see how we can, you know, continue to build the community.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you guys so much.
Yes. Happy almost birthday.
Thank you.
Yes.
And happy belated birthday.
Yes, Aquarius. I should play the song if we exit, but I'm not going to do that because Dre's going to roll his eyes on another word. And we're like, please don't play hair. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. next Thursday at 8 p.m. to tune into another Power Talk.
Yes, don't
Peace
miss
out.
it.